Welcome to the 33 Degrees. This is the guided transformation designed to help you set your life on an entirely new trajectory. Set you up for a life that you once thought might not have been possible for you. We're here to change that. Welcome to the 5th degree. Today we're going to be talking about knowing thyself. There's an old Greek proverb that goes, "Know thyself and thou shalt know all of the mysteries of the gods and of the universe." Just something for you to think about as we press on through the 33 degrees. So up until this point, we have spoken about how your mind is a garden, how you have the gatekeeper, the watchkeeper, the gardener up at the conscious mind, and then we have the subconscious mind. And we talked about how 90%, 95%, give or take, of our lives is governed by that subconscious. We also talked about how manifestation is part of our identity. It's the created reality through the person we are. We don't manifest our world through our intentions, our desires, and our wants. That's not how we manifest. We have learned now that we manifest who we are. We attract from our identity and nothing else. Your identity has a signature, it has a frequency. And whatever fits, whatever's attracted to that frequency will begin to come into your life. But if we don't know who we are at the deepest level, then we aren't ever going to be able to create the world that we want. It's just not possible. I want to give you an example. I want you to imagine that you're a tree, but you don't know what kind of tree you are. And you look across the field and you see an apple tree. And for whatever reason, you fall in love with apples. You're like, wow, those are some beautiful apples. I think I want to grow me some apples. So you do everything you think you need to do to grow some apples. You get the right amount of sun, the soil. You position your tree in the right place. You're trimming off the dead branches. But you don't get apples. No matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, the only fruit you bear are oranges. You see the apples, you want the apples. You're doing all the work. You're putting in the effort. You're doing everything that is supposed to be done to get apples. But you keep getting oranges. Why? Because you're not an apple tree. You're an orange tree. The life you want to live, the reality you want to create is not going to come from the identity that you currently have. The identity that you currently have has created the world that you live in. Or you're in the process of slowly attracting that new world to you because you've made some serious shifts and changes in your own identity. So without being radically aware of who we are and why we are the way that we are, whatever we're trying to build is not going to last on the foundation that we're building it on because there's no alignment there. That's what we have to understand. If we want to begin to create the world that we want to live in, we have to know who we are at the deepest level. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. How to tap into that part of ourselves, how to develop radical self-awareness, how to figure out, like, why do I do the things that I do? Where is this coming from? Let's dive in. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to read some questions to you, and we're going to dive into the deeper levels of the why. And the whole purpose of this degree ultimately is to get you to begin peeling back the layers of your mind so that you can dive deeper into your psyche and have a much better understanding as to why you are the way that you are. So as I read through these and go through the different levels of the why, the deeper why, down to the core issue, you will either relate to what I'm saying or you'll be able to extrapolate this out onto your own context and your own life, and you will see that, oh, this is a place where I can go deeper. This is where I've been settling for surface level whys, but there's clearly a deeper why, and I need to begin to figure out what that why is. So just follow along and see what resonates. So number one, making a joke in a serious moment. On the surface, you say, I cracked the joke during a meeting. Your first why, I wanted to lighten the mood. Your deeper why, I felt uncomfortable with tension. Even deeper, I fear people's disapproval if I say something serious and it's rejected. The core root, I equate acceptance with keeping everyone comfortable because as a kid, tension often led to conflict or rejection. 2, you post an accomplishment online on your social media. On the surface, I shared my new achievement on social media. The first why, I wanted to inspire others. A deeper why, I also wanted validation and praise. Even deeper, I feel unseen in my offline life. The core root, growing up, I only got recognition when I performed, so I learned to equate my worth with public acknowledgement. Number 3, over-explaining yourself. On the surface, I gave way more details than were needed. Your first why, I wanted to be clear. Your deeper why, I was afraid I was afraid they'd misunderstand me. Even deeper, I feared being judged as careless or wrong. The core root, in childhood, mistakes were met with punishment or ridicule, so I learned to over-justify to avoid backlash. Number 4, not speaking up in a group. On the surface, I stayed quiet during a brainstorming session. The first why, I didn't have anything good enough to add. The deeper why, I was afraid my idea would be shot down. Even deeper, I fear looking foolish. Core root, my self-worth is tied to being seen as competent because I grew up with a parent who often belittled my ideas. Number 5, buying something expensive. On the surface, I bought a luxury item. The first why, I wanted to reward myself. The deeper why, I wanted to look successful to others. Even deeper, I feared looking like I'm struggling. The core root, I equate external signs of wealth with safety and respect because poverty in my early years felt like constant insecurity. Number 6, avoiding conflict with a friend. On the surface, I let something slide even though it bothered me. The first why, I didn't want to create drama. The deeper why, I feared losing the friendship. Even deeper, I fear abandonment more than I value honesty. The core root, past abandonment taught me that keeping people happy keeps them from leaving. Number 7, taking control of a group project. On the surface, I volunteered to lead and handle most of it. The first why, I wanted it done right. The deeper why, I didn't trust others to meet my standard. Even deeper, if it failed, I'd rather blame myself than feel let down. The core root, I equate control with safety because relying on others has led to deep disappointment in the past. Number 8, withdrawing when stressed. On the surface, I disappeared for a few days without telling anyone. Your first why, I needed space to think. The deeper why, I didn't want to be seen struggling. Even deeper, I feared being judged as weak. The core root, growing up, expressing emotions was unsafe, so I learned to process them in isolation. Number 9, agreeing to something you don't want to do. On the surface, I said yes to helping with an event. The first why, I wanted to be supportive. The deeper why, I didn't want them to be upset. Even deeper, I feared they'd think less of me or see me as selfish. The core root, my self-worth is tied to being needed because I learned early that usefulness was my path to love. Number 10, criticizing someone's idea quickly. On the surface, I shot down their suggestion. First why, I thought it wouldn't work. Deeper why, I didn't want them to outshine my ideas. Even deeper, I feared losing influence or credibility. The core root, in my formative years, approval was given to the best or the smartest, so my identity became tied to being the one with the right answer. Did any of those resonate with you? The answer is yes, they did. If you are a human being on planet Earth, you either related or resonated with all of those or some of them. And the ones that you didn't, there's just as many other ones as you do that I didn't mention. We do this. We do things for reasons that we think are the reasons we're doing them, but they're not. We have to go deep. And this is what it looks like. This is what the deeper why looks like. So you have to extrapolate this out and begin to apply this in everything you do. And just for good measure, there's 10 more, really short, real quick, just to show you that this applies to everything. Everything. So I'm going to read these super quick. They're not as detailed as the last ones, but they'll give you an idea of what I mean by everything. Number 1, why did I choose the seat in the back of the room instead of the front? Why did I avoid making eye contact with the cashier? Why did I check my phone the moment the conversation got quiet? Why did I laugh at that joke when I didn't actually think it was funny? Why did I grab the blue coffee mug instead of the red one? Why did I take the long route home instead of the shortcut? Why did I speak louder when that specific person entered the room? Why did I over-explain myself when a simple yes would do? Why did I hesitate before hitting send on that text? And why did I start cleaning when I felt anxious? Ask yourself why you do everything, because everything has a why. Not everything is going to be some deep-rooted psychological, reasoning behind it, but there's always going to be a deeper why as to why you did what you did. There's no way around this. And if you don't know the why, you do not know yourself as well as you could. And the more self-aware you are, the higher the quality of your life. So knowing thyself is an absolute non-negotiable. If we don't intend to do this, we are going to be governed by the original programming and conditioning since birth, all the old patterns and underlying beliefs that are creating your current reality. It's going to continue to perpetuate. You're not going to change anything without deeply investigating who you are and why you are the way that you are. Self-knowledge makes you predictable to yourself. It gives you that emotional regulation, that mastery of self, that stability, that equanimity of mind. You are predictable to yourself when you know yourself. And that's one of the things that it's in itself, it's going to change your life. When you can predict how you're going to conduct yourself in the future because you know who you are. So you no longer let the fear of the unknown govern you, because regardless of what you don't know, whenever you get to that crossroad, you do know that because of who you are, how you're going to respond, and no matter what happens, you're going to drive the mission forward. You're not going to be stopped by your lower self. But what's going to prevent us from doing this work? I'm going to tell you what it is. It's the ego and the shadow. And a lot of you have heard about, it's your ego, or he's got an ego problem, they got an ego problem. When really somebody has an ego problem, what they really have is a shadow problem. I'm going to briefly touch on what the shadow and the ego is. I'm actually going to read something for you because I would be remiss if I didn't share this out of this book while we're having this conversation. And this is Meeting the Shadow, the Hidden Power of the Dark Side of Human Nature. And I'm just going to read this really quick because I want you to understand what's going on with your ego and your shadow, and show you that as you begin to do this deep work, you're going to get triggered like crazy. You're going to come to that point in your mind and your psyche, and you're going to go, nope, not going in there. Fuck that. That's going to happen. That is absolutely going to happen. But let's talk about what is happening. And I'm just going to go ahead and read. You guys follow along. The personal shadow develops naturally in every young child. As we identify with ideal personality characteristics such as politeness and generosity, which are reinforced in our environments, we shape what W. Brew Joy calls the New Year's resolution self. At the same time, we bury in the shadow those qualities that don't fit our self-image, such as rudeness and selfishness. The ego and the shadow then develop in tandem, creating each other out of the same life experience. Many forces play a role in forming our shadow selves, ultimately determining what is permitted expression and what is not. Parents, siblings, teachers, clergy, and friends create a complex environment in which we learn what is kind, proper, moral behavior, and what is mean-spirited, shameful, and sinful. The shadow acts like a psychic immune system, defining what is self and what is not. For different people in different families and cultures, what falls into ego and what falls into shadow can vary. For instance, some permit anger or aggression to be expressed. Most do not. Some permit sexuality, vulnerability, or strong emotions. Many do not. Some permit financial ambition or artistic expression or intellectual development, while some do not. We cannot look directly into this hidden domain. The shadow by nature is difficult to apprehend. It is dangerous, disorderly, and forever in hiding, as if the light of consciousness would steal its very life. Prolific Jungian analyst James Hillman says, "The unconscious cannot be conscious. The moon has its dark side. The sun goes down and cannot shine everywhere at once, and even God has two hands. Attention and focus require some things to be out of the field of vision, to remain in the dark. One cannot look both ways." For this reason, we see the shadow most indirectly in the distasteful traits and actions of other people, out there where it is safer to observe it. When we react intensely to a quality in an individual or group, such as laziness or stupidity, sensuality or spirituality, and our own reaction overtakes us with great loathing or admiration, this may be our own shadow showing. We project by attributing this quality to the other person in an unconscious effort to banish it from ourselves, to keep ourselves from seeing it from within. Jungian analyst Marie-Louise von Franz suggests that projection is like shooting a magic arrow. If the receiver has a soft spot to receive the projection, it sticks. If we project our anger onto a distasteful mate, our seductive charm onto a good-looking stranger, or our spiritual attributes onto a guru, we hit the target and the projection holds. From then on, the sender and the receiver are linked in a mysterious alliance, like falling in love, discovering a perfect hero or a perfect villain. So the personal shadow contains undeveloped, unexpressed potentials of all kinds. It is that part of the unconscious that is complementary to the ego and represents those characteristics that the conscious personality does not wish to acknowledge and therefore neglects, forgets, and buries, only to discover them in uncomfortable confrontations with others. At moments like these, when we are possessed by strong feelings of shame or anger, or we find that our behavior is off the mark in some way, the shadow is erupting unexpectedly. Usually it recedes just as quickly because meeting the shadow can be a frightening and shocking experience to our self-image. For this reason, we may quickly shift into denial, hardly noticing the murderous fantasy, the suicidal thought, or embarrassing envy that could reveal a bit of our own darkness. So, when you are getting triggered, when you are investigating yourself, so when you get triggered by the outer world or by your own self as you go in, because you're going to get triggered by both, understand that there's a conflict between the ego and the shadow. The ego is your identity. It's the conscious mind. It's the observer. It has an identity. It has a self-image that you've created. But it also is working in tandem with the subconscious mind and with your shadow. And the shadow contains all of the things that you have denied from yourself. Everything. So I'm going to give you one example to show you how you can begin to dive into yourself with these triggers when you get triggered by somebody in the outer world. Let's say the person speaking on stage right now, you're watching them and you're like, that person is cocky and arrogant. Maybe they are, but maybe you're projecting that onto them because you're actually afraid to put yourself out there like that. Maybe their confidence is just triggering your insecurity. So you have to ask yourself, is that person really cocky and arrogant? And then you have to ask yourself, am I afraid to do this? Am I afraid to do what they're doing? Is it possible that I just think that they're cocky and arrogant and I'm triggered the way that I am because I wish I could do what they're doing, but I don't have the balls to do it and I'm scared? That's what a projection looks like. And we do this all the time in every area of our life. We project our insecurities, our fears, our beliefs We wear that shit on our sleeve. And if you're out there in the world pointing your finger, point it this way. Because this is the problem. 99.9% of the time. Every problem that I've ever had in my life was never created by another person. And I've had some serious fucking problems in my life because I have been seriously unaligned, unaware, didn't know who I was and why I was the way that I was. So as we dive deep into this practice and we get triggered time and time again, there's one way through: radical humility and radical honesty. Radical humility is the gateway to radical transformation, and radical honesty is the key to that gate. And once you walk through that gate, you are walking into a room where your why is buried. And your job is to have an insatiable curiosity to find that why. To go through that room, turn over every stone, look around every corner, every crevice, and you find that why. But that's going to take you radical humility and radical fucking honesty. Without that, you can just stop trying. You shouldn't even be here. But you are here. So I do believe, actually I know that there's no way in hell that you started on the first degree and got to this point and are lacking radical humility and honesty. I know that about you, that you have that. It took that to get to here. Another way to begin to get some feedback rapidly. Find somebody you trust and ask them, like, hey man, what are some things that I need to know about myself that you know that I probably don't know about myself? That maybe you're afraid to say to me because you don't want to hurt my feelings or trigger me. But honestly, bro, like those are the things I want to hear. Like, lay it on me, man. Like, I don't want to be unaware of the things that everybody else is aware of about me that they don't like. Like, let me know what those things are, please. That's hard as shit to do. But if you do it, if you have somebody who actually cares about you in your life, they've got a list. They've had it. But because of their own insecurities and shit, they won't tell you. Because they want to be comfortable where they are, so they let you be comfortable where you are. That's why we have the friends that we have. And watch yourself like a damn hawk. Again, every movement of your body, every syllable that slips off your lips, every thought, every intention, you have to know why. You have to. Let this be a daily and lifelong practice. Watch yourself like a hawk. Everything you do from this point forward, you watch yourself like a hawk. It might seem ridiculous and borderline unnecessary, but it's not. Until you can explain the why behind every single thing you do and be able to trace it all the way down to the deepest why, you are missing out on an opportunity to have a much greater experience, a better human experience. And that's ultimately what this is all about. I want you to have a better human experience. I want to continue to elevate my own experience. I want that for you. But it only comes through this work, from knowing thyself. Because the moment that you start watching yourself like a hawk is the moment that you stop living on autopilot and you start living on purpose. And that's the 5th degree. Know thyself. Watch yourself like a hawk. Let this degree be the catalyst that gets you to dig your claws in and start peeling back your mind. Dive deep into your psyche and understand why you do every single thing you do. Once you begin this, you'll be well on your way. I'll see you guys tomorrow in the 6th degree.